we're firing up for the playoffs here, obviously. With your pedigree and then the run that you made there in 03 and everything else, what's it like? What are those guys going through, especially being in the market of Toronto?
Well, I'm sure they're excited. There's no better place to play in the playoff than a Canadian city, especially probably Toronto and Montreal, the two biggest ones. So, to me, I would be excited. I think they know that they have a team that they can go all the way with. So, you got to put all the noise aside, all the bad feelings from the past aside. This is a new year. You had a good season. I feel like the team is ready. It's deep. So for me, if I was them anyway, I'd be very excited because I like what I'm seeing on paper anyway.
Jiggy, what's your read on the goaltending matchup? So as we know, it's going to be Ilya Samsonov against Andrei Vasilevskiy. For my money, already one of the best goaltenders of all time. But what's your read on the goalie matchup in this series?
Well, Vasilevskiy is the key to the Tampa Bay. If they're going to beat the Leafs, he's going to have to be at the top of his game. And it's not the goalie. This year I feel like he hasn't played as well as he's been in the past. He looks like he's a bit tired mentally, and he's giving up some goals that we used to see him giving. So I think that's an opportunity right there for the Leafs to really jump on him, put pressure on him right off the bat, and put some doubts in his head, because it's hard. Like, even those goalies, the best in the world, even sometimes you get some doubts. So you got to try to do that at the beginning and give confidence to your goalie, because Samsonov, there's no doubt there's a matchup one-on-one. You got to try to beat the goalie on the other side of the ice, and it's a tall matchup with Samsonov. I think he can do it. He's capable enough, but Russian against Russian adds a bit more stress. Who that guy is across the ice, so you can give up some soft goals. You got to be at the top of your game, and it's a tough ask for Samsonov to go head to head against Vasilevskiy.
For sure, and you know that as well as anybody, Jig. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, since you're here, we've been talking about on this program for a while, just the market and what it's like to play in, especially for goaltenders. They've had trouble getting that high-end goaltender for, a little while, but with you coming from the Anaheim Ducks organization for a long time, obviously feeling tons of pressure with the playoffs and everything, but a different market. Did you feel that coming into Toronto, that spotlight and that little bit extra pressure being in that market, or were you past that at that point in your career?
Well, I don't think you can ever get past that in a way. I think I had lots of experience, so I could rely on that. I was mature enough not to read the paper and watch the news and stuff like that. Obviously, my time in Toronto didn't go as well as I would have liked, so I couldn't, read what or listen to what people were saying about me. So you got to stay away from the negative, comments and noise that surrounds you. And truthfully, I really love my time in Toronto. I thought, it's a great organization. It's fun to play in a city that, you matter, where people really live and breathe what you do. You know what I mean? And especially when it goes well, it's not going to take much. If the league starts winning a couple of games here in the playoff at the beginning, the city is just going to go crazy. So that's a lot of fun. And coming from Anaheim, where I played 10 years, it was a nice change in my career at that point. It really gave me some extra motivation and some extra juice that I needed at that time. And I think you can't make it too big. It remains hockey. It's something Samsonov, he's got to stay in his bubble. Don't read what's going on. Don't listen to what's going on. Just be there with your teammates, with your goalie coach, and be in the present tense, and try to have fun through it all. It's sometimes we make it too big. If you give up a goal you could have stopped, it doesn't mean that the game is over. You can be the difference in the game still.
What do you remember about 2003, Jiggy?
I was scared. I was really scared. When I got traded to Anaheim, the first meeting I had with my goalie coach was François Allaire. He told me, he was already talking to me about the Stanley Cup. That was in 2000. And I thought he was nuts. I wasn't even in the NHL yet. And there he is. The first thing he's talking to me about is winning the cup. And he always had told me, he's like, when your team is going to be ready to be in the playoff, you will be ready. And I always kind of, went back to that. It was like we had been working together for 3 years, and that's was my first experience in the playoff, but I felt ready. We worked really hard, and I had a good season that year, and so I was a little scared. I won't lie, but I felt confident in what I could do, and at the same time, I took those playoffs because nobody really expected us to go anywhere or win against the Red Wings in the first round. So I took it as an experience, try to get some playoff experience, try to be better. I wanted to be better after 2 weeks. And, I ended up having pretty good series, I guess.
Jiggy, Samsonov coming in. I mean, they put their eggs in both the baskets with Samsonov and Murray, and injury wise, it hasn't really worked out with Murray. We're going with Samsonov, and some people are talking about his record in the playoffs. And you got to keep in mind it's the bubble and whatnot. But with that going into the playoffs, does he change anything, or is anything different? Do you go into even more of a bubble, or do you continue doing what you're doing? What was your mindset going in? I mean, you've had so many series to get that experience.
Yeah, well, you don't want to change what you're doing. You get I think he had a really good season. He looks really solid. He poised and calm, and that's what you got to keep doing. You don't want to do extra stuff because that's when you're going to make mistakes. And you're gonna, you got to try to give your team some confidence. I think that's what the Leafs need. They don't need a goalie that's going to steal them some game necessarily, but they need a goalie that's just going to give them confidence, going to make the key save at the right time, that's going to be solid at the end of a game, going to be solid in overtime. All the key moment of games, they need him to be, and sometimes you can make a save and look shaky. You gotta, you can't do that in playoff. You gotta look solid at all time and look like you're in control of your emotion, in control of your technique. When you have off days, I think it's important that you just focus on, if you have a family or a girlfriend, you focus on that. Stay away from the game for a bit. And it's so important in a market like Toronto. You can't start reading about what's going on. I think it's the young kids, the young guys these days, they with the social media, I think it's hard for them to not go read about yourself and see what's going on, what people are saying about you. And to me, I think that would be a mistake, especially in a market like Toronto, because it seems like there's never anybody happy.
Yeah, for sure. And lastly, just what's your scope on this series? Obviously, it's been a long time since this team won a playoff series. I would argue maybe this is the best Leafs roster we've seen since maybe the Pat Quinn era. How do you think they match up with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and do you think they finally get it done this spring?
I think they're going to get it done. I don't know that they're going to win the Stanley Cup this year. I wouldn't necessarily pick them to go all the way, but I think this is the year that they're ready to beat Tampa Bay. I think Tampa's had some tough season in the past, and I don't see them as deep or as hungry as they were in the last few years. And Toronto, I really like the Ryan O'Reilly addition. I think he's the real deal. He's really a good leader. He's a guy that will do anything that it takes to win. Plays the game the right way, and he's been there before. He knows what it takes to win a cup, and I think he's going to make a huge difference in the playoff. And I think they're ready. And I'd like the Leafs in 6 in this series. They can afford to go in Game 7. Not against a goalie like Vasilevskiy, because you just don't know what kind of games he can pull out. But so you got to put some doubt right off the bat, and go 5 or 6 games. But I think that's the year that they're gonna at least go in the first round for sure.
I like it. Jiggy, going to the finals and going all the way, what that takes out of you mentally and physically. This team over there in Tampa has done it 3 times in a row. Does that play a factor in where their heads are at and how much they got left in the tank?
No, fair. I think it takes a lot out of you. There's injuries, but the mental fatigue is there for sure. And I think there's a point that you're mentally not as hungry as you were to win the cup. And, I think that's just normal. They've played a lot of games. They've played a lot of series. And who knows? They're a good veteran team. There's good leadership in that group. So hopefully, we'll have a good series. But I think that's, if the Leafs can really go hard at them, and I'm not talking necessarily like being dirty or overly physical, but just go hard, put pressure on their D, put pressure on their goalies. The third and fourth line, you have to be at your best, because I don't think Tampa Bay is as deep. And maybe mentally they won't have that fight in them like they had in the past year. And I think that's normal. I think we're not done with Tampa Bay. I think we'll see them for the years to come. They'll still be a good team, but I see the Leafs being a better team this year.